Welcome to Casey Cares, the voice of Kansas City nonprofits. We share the stories of local nonprofits and the individuals who drive them. At Casey Cares, we connect the nonprofit and business sectors to enhance the quality of life in Kansas City for both residents and our visitors. This Casey Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation, www.kauffman.org. I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis. Here on Casey Cares, we believe the arts have the power to inspire change, amplify voices, and build stronger communities. The nonprofit No Divide KC partners with Kansas City-based organizations and artists to create events that center on the stories of underserved and misrepresented communities. No Divide KC is focused on exploring how creativity and collaboration can spark social awareness and drive meaningful participation right here in Kansas City. So whether you're an artist, an activist, or simply curious about the power of storytelling, you're in the right place. Joining us for this episode is No Divide KC co-founder and executive director, Stacy Busch. Let's jump in, Stacy. Welcome. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So I did that whole introduction, but you're the expert on your organization. Your words as the co-founder. What is No Divide KC and why did you decide to do it?
Well, that was an amazing introduction, actually. I thank you for that. And you were correct. So I founded No Divide KC in 2017. I was also finishing my education. I am a musician, and I was finishing my master's degree at the UMKC Conservatory. And there was also an election in 2016, and those two converging things really inspired me to start No Divide KC. And at first it was just a benefit concert that we called No Divide that I put together with some friends. And then I was looking for meaningful ways to engage in the Kansas City community as an artist. I felt like in my own academia that there was something a bit missing, that I often questioned who is arts, who are the arts for, and also what is the place of an artist. And to me, the place of an artist is as a community leader. We are grassroots, front of the lines people in any community. And so those kind of issues led me to start No Divide. However, it wasn't until a few years later when we started to pick up and it became more than just a branch of my own arts practice, something to do to be fulfilling to me and to give back to Kansas City. We started to grow very quickly, thanks to the support of so many incredible artists in Kansas City and to all of the supporters who came and supported our events. Now we have a robust programming of artist opportunities of all types and kinds. We serve every genre of artist. We pay every artist we work with. And all of our events are free or donation-based to the community. And we have a different education program and lots of different opportunities for all members to engage with at any time throughout the entire year.
Wow, we've got so much to unpack. I'm so excited. So At a grad school, election, lots of divisiveness over many, many things. Okay, you're going to start a nonprofit? Wow, that's a big undertaking. As you said, you began as performance and then you went that direction. What led you to say, let's make this a nonprofit? Let's put our feet on the ground and move forward in that direction?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think always from the beginning, even though it was built out of, my desire to do something as an artist, solve problems that I saw based on my own experiences in the arts, it still was always meant to be this sharing, collaborative, creative community that uplifted each other, that celebrated each other's differences, celebrated each other's successes and strengths, rather than siloing or sometimes we are competitive with each other. And that's what our name suggests, No Divide. We partner with organizations all over the city who have been working in the areas that we're trying to serve much longer than No Divide has. And so it was always, the mission was always larger than my own individual work. And it was always a process of passing the mic and letting others experience their own arts careers or their own arts hobbies, and our supporters being able to just honestly live a healthier lifestyle through practicing the arts or being around the arts on a daily basis.
It's a lot, though, to say I'm going to start a nonprofit. So how did you go about that? Who were the folks that helped? How did you know what to do?
Yeah. I think there's so many, when we think of the arts sector, we're actually usually thinking of the nonprofit sector. So most of our arts organizations are nonprofit, right? So we have our institutions, the ballet, the opera, the theater, and these are all nonprofit organizations. It's also really common for arts groups or entities to go the nonprofit model as well. So it wasn't something that was totally unfamiliar with me, but I also, worked in other nonprofits at school. I was a part of the composition, student-led composition, department. And then I worked at the Kansas City Ballet. I worked at Owen Cox Dance Group for quite a while, and had a lot of different mentors that were both artists and nonprofit entrepreneurs. And so I just had a little ragtag group of friends. And of course, my spouse, my wife, is our co-founder at No Divide. And she is an English language learner instructor who also works for a nonprofit. So we had some skills in that area, but certainly starting it and getting it off the ground is tremendously difficult. A lot of people come to me to ask about how to start a nonprofit, and I'm sometimes like, maybe don't, maybe there's a faster way to see results, because it is a slow process.
Well, you had that background, and that's great that you had mentors and people who said, hey, I can tell you a thing or two, including don't start a nonprofit, but you did it anyway. Then we start to move towards that thing called the pandemic. How did you all work? Because, as you say, yours is a very collaborative organization.
Yes. It's strange because the pandemic was obviously really challenging for everyone. Our first Queer Narratives Festival took place in the middle of the pandemic in 2020. And we had to switch. We did all the things, we switched to outdoor. We had the temperature kiosks. Everyone was masked. I mean, we did all these things, and it was really difficult. However, I think one thing that was to our benefit was that we were smaller. And even in 2020, we were still a volunteer-led organization. And so we had less overhead. We didn't have a physical space. We didn't have staff. And so we were very flexible in being able to pivot and try different things. Most of our programming went online. And so we were able to keep this momentum of still this grassroots organization that people wanted to be a part of. But I think in some ways we were able to navigate it better than larger organizations because we had more flexibility in what we could do and what we could try. The opposite side of that is that, of course, as a growing organization, growing during that period is very difficult. Funding is
Yes.
Challenging. And then you're also not able to kind of build on the momentum that we've been experiencing. So it was very challenging, but ultimately I think it was almost a gift to be the size we were during that time, just because of what we could be able to pivot to.
I want to talk about queer narratives because it's one of your ongoing, I believe, programs, events. Share with us what it's all about.
Sure. So we have a series of annual events. Our largest annual event is the Queer Narratives Festival. It is our 6th year in our Queer Narratives Festival this year. And so it is an 8-week-long festival of visual and performing arts. We feature over 40 LGBTQ identifying artists in all genres. Currently, we have a visual exhibition that spans the whole 8 weeks of the festival at Joby Art Center in their Spirit Gallery, 18th and Vine area. That is free to the public if you would like to go peruse it yourself. And then we also have artist-led workshops, events. We have a LGBTQ queer health fair that KU Gender Diversity Clinic helps us put together. And this all culminates in our main festival, which features over 17 performing artists over 2 days. And it is everything that you can imagine. It is, of course, drag. It is also new music, comedy, dance, music and varieties of all kinds. And I think this is something that is special to No Divide. We really try to put together lineups that may not be featured together in any other spaces. And frequently artists, tell me at the end of the Queer Narratives Festival, this was one of the most special things about performing, is because they never saw their work alongside a drag artist, or a drag artist never saw their work alongside a classical musician, or similar things like that. So it is an incredible experience. The festival itself is the first weekend in August. And we kicked it off on June 13th. So it's in the summer every year, and we serve over 1,000 audience members throughout that whole 8-week process.
That must be tremendous to put together. Now, are you still all volunteer driven? You have staff now to help?
We do have staff now. Yay. So we are growing very quickly. We have a small staff of 3 and a bunch of contractors. We are in the midst of a whole strategic plan that is really focused on organizational growth and getting us to where we need to be. But we just continue to grow exponentially every year. It's very exciting. It's also daunting, and every year it's such a big step up from the year before. But that's part of what makes it fun. And I think everyone that's involved with No Divide, if it's our staff or board or volunteers, are all in this process because they are excited about this time period where we are really building something that will sustain and be here in Kansas City, and particularly during this period of Kansas City, that this is how we're building our roots. This is our history that we're making right now. I think there's a really great energy going on for what we will do in the future and what we can do now.
Well, tell us about some of the other programs and events that you do.
Sure. Okay. So the other annual event is the Come As You Are, Vulnerability in the Concert Space. It has been partnered with Lyric Opera for the past 3 years, where we've done a fellowship program. We pair composers and librettists who are writers of words, and they have a fellowship program for 4 months. They participate in a lot of training, and then they get to premiere what's called a micro opera, which is about a 15-minute opera in partnership with Lyric Opera. And those operas are for children. And so the concert, we have lots of kids activities, we have sensory rooms, we get up and dance, and we also showcase the power of opera and kind of instill a love for music and the arts, for the next generation of arts lovers or arts practicers. And so next year we will actually move on to different partners and work on a collaboration between music, choreography, and storytelling. So we will remain it being a event for families and for kids, but the mediums will be dance, music, and storytelling.
Can you share your...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So that is the Come As You Are concert. And then, of course, we have an annual gala. That's our other annual event, which takes place in November. Additionally to our annual programs, we have an education program. It's split into many different factions. It is called Art Spark. We have a roster of facilitators that go in school, and then they also attend after-school programs. We have many different partners that are both schools and also organizations that are working in many different varieties and many different communities in Kansas City. We also have our bicultural poetry program, which is, as the name suggests, a poetry program for people of all cultures. It started as the bilingual poetry program, and we were working with a lot of Spanish speakers. We've now opened it up and to all different types of cultures. So bilingualism isn't necessarily essential to participating in this. It's, all types of cultures, race, ethnicity, but also, we work with Gilda's Club, which is Cancer Support Center. And we believe that that is a culture in itself too. If you're recovering or have experiences with cancer, that's a culture in itself too. So the program has really opened up. We've seen the power in writing and what it can do for both kids and adults. So that's the other branch of our education program.
I love that you've incorporated kids into all of this creativity. There's so much living on a screen. So The fact that you're doing this and getting kids excited is terrific. We're talking with Stacy Busch. She is the co-founder and executive director of No Divide KC. All right, we are in this time of really political divisiveness and stuff. So what's it like to operate now? And what are you doing to try to, I guess, mitigate what the situation is that we can't change at least until election?
Yeah. Well, how much time do we have?
We've got time.
Yeah. It's complicated. It's complex. It's not. There's a lot of really difficult challenges right now, and I think every sector, every person in any community is really feeling it in different ways, but we're all feeling it. Massive cuts to the arts is something that we're aware of that's just happening. And beyond funding cuts, which are, probably the most significant, we are also facing a time where many of the communities that we serve, that we are dedicated to serving, are at risk. And then our organization, in terms of wanting to serve them through our mission, is also at risk. So how are we working through that? I think in terms of funding models, we are really focusing on community-funded projects. For instance, we have lost much of our grant funding for the Queer Narratives Festival. And so we are switching that model to more of a community-led event where we are primarily working through donations and other types of income. This is something that we have to do as an organization altogether, which is also challenging because it's not a time where we want to ask our community to have to serve us in this way. Everyone's getting hit by the same things. Yet I think it's also powerful, and I think people are motivated right now to be able to save something, to be able to save a program, to be able to contribute to a program that really impacts Kansas City. So I think there's motivation here, but we understand the toll it takes on asking our community members to help us in this way. So diversifying our income streams is the largest, form of protection that we can take right now. And that comes, just as a group. It's a group effort. In terms of our programming and how we're moving forward with that, I think it's just with like a lot of grace and listening to people. I think it's really important to listen to the concerns and understand how we can continue to ensure that we are a safe space for people when they're in our space. And I don't necessarily think I have to go into, the specifics of what that looks like, but I think it's a lot more of making sure that mission of when you are in a no divide space, you feel safe and you feel like you can be yourself and you feel like you don't have to come into it as your best. We want you to come in whatever state that you are in right at that moment. And so that's more emotional care and more listening, I think, than anything else. And of course that leads to some specific changes, but I think those are the two biggest ways that we have to move forward. And then, of course, it's just uncertainty. We don't know what's coming tomorrow. We don't know what's coming next year. And so there's just kind of this blind day by day approach to it right now that I think, we're just getting used to. And that's just the way we have to function.
Your advocacy work, tell us about that.
Our advocacy work, could you define that a little more specifically?
Well, I know when I was reading it and prepping for the show today, talking about, your work is sharing arts and that collaborative space, but it also is got an advocacy type of message. So I wanted you to kind of address how that weaves together.
Sure. Yeah, of course. So the work that we do is really, we serve underserved populations in Kansas City. We take a broad look at that. So we think the artists are an underserved community. We also think certain communities that are intersectional are underserved, whether you are a queer person. Of course, we're queer founded and led, and so that is a large population that we serve, but it's not the only population we serve. We also serve immigrant and refugee populations, BIPOC populations, and we try to bridge all of these together into one. So as our name suggests, we want every event to be open and to be inclusive, to be able to bring different groups together in one. And so that is very intentional work. It is also trust building. And I think it's a few different prongs that we have to our organization, and I'll try to recite them. They're on our website. But one, one is just the conception of our events. Who are we trying to serve? We're not just putting together a concert for the beauty of the concert. We are intentionally trying to solve a problem in our program. So just from the conceptual end of from the program, what are we trying to serve? And then that advocacy is in there from the beginning. And then it's also based on the artists that we serve. So how are we getting the artists that represent these communities? Is our board representative of this community? Is our staff representative of this community? Do we have these people in the writing rooms? Is our rehearsal processes, all of our processes where we work with those artists, are we accomplishing the concept, in this way? And then, of course, through our audience, is the audience secure in feeling that we are, presenting a safe space and also serving the communities that we wanted to serve specifically in each program? So we kind of take it from the concept level of developing a program all the way down to the event itself and the audience and supporters that are participating. So that's a brief, I'm sure we can get more into the specifics, but that's the brief overview.
2017 to now. Talk a little bit about where you started and where you are, and then where you want to be.
I love that question because where we started was just me and my wife and, signing some paperwork to become a nonprofit. And we were doing a lot of documentaries just on our own, her skills, and awareness in the immigrant refugee populations, and my skills in the arts world. And then now we are, organizationally, we have grown to such extremes already. The number of people that we serve, having staff, having a board that's dedicated, having supporters, volunteers, and then just the sheer amount of programming that we do every year, I think it's just been such a difference. And then, as I mentioned, we are still growing. We are really still young and still fairly small. And I see the next chapter, and I guess this alludes to part of the question about how we survive. We need to be more sustainable. And I think anyone in the arts understands these passion projects that we start, unfortunately, can die out because of the burnout, because of not getting to a place where we reach true sustainability, just because it's so challenging and it's usually the passion of one person. And so we're trying to avoid that and get to a place where the vision is beyond me, the vision is beyond one person, and No Divide exists in much more strength, sustainability in our staff and our organization, so that the next chapter can be even bigger than this one. And so that's really what the work that I'm doing right now, and I'm so excited about it. It's a dream to be able to also provide quality employment for artists. That was not a vision that I had when starting No Divide. And so it's just come into another version of our mission statement, quality employment. And I'm personally just thrilled at that. And it really is kind of what is getting me up in the morning. So that's the transition that we're taking now, is that sustainability piece. So No Divide can be here in 50 years and be in much better health, even than we have been before.
That's a big undertaking for sure. How, you say you're collaborative with other organizations. How do you see that playing into possibly sustainability and coming together, from various organizations?
I think it's really important. Partnering and collaboration is really important. It's resource sharing. It's also eliminating a scarcity mindset that exists for a good reason. What I get, someone else is expressly not able to get. And that's there and it's real. But I think partnering takes that down a few notches, because I think in truth, as the saying goes, a rising tide lifts all sails. And I'm thinking of the art sector. We need to raise the tide of the art sector, and that comes from everybody. And so partnership and collaboration is very important. And it's also, it's sharing of resources. It's also sharing of expertise. We specialize in certain things. We don't specialize in others. And so I think coming together, bringing this together, both on a, kind of conceptual level of, this making a difference, but also just realistically, I mean, we need to be able to share resources. And so I think it does play a very crucial role in sustainability. And it's also nice to be able to be, in community and be able to lean on people. I think there's a lot of loneliness sometimes
Yeah.
attributed to working in these areas, or, the burnout, and it's tiring. And sometimes it feels like it's thankless and you're not getting anywhere. And so it just means a lot to be able to have partners and be able to express these things together, rather than on your own.
I want to give you a moment to give us the website, because maybe there are partners out there who want to know more about you and how to connect with you.
Yes, please do. So the website is nodividekc.org. Yes, we're interested volunteering, partnering. We have all types of ways to get involved. If you're an artist or a supporter, nodividekc.org. Also on social media, it's just nodividekc.
Perfect. I'm intrigued that you're working with youth. Is there one story you can share, maybe of a kiddo? You don't have to reveal names or anything, that just made you go, yes, we're doing the right things. It's catching.
I just got flooded with, it's hard to choose one.
Share a couple.
Yeah. One, one story that's really powerful is a high school student that has a particular gift with poetry and spoken word, and we started working with them in high school, in through our workshops, and then they've worked with No Divide in various contexts. They've performed for us. They're an extremely powerful artist, and now they're thinking about college and they're thinking about scholarships. And I can see that this gift that they have is, shared by their parents. Their parents are really supportive of them. And their next stage in life is really, I think, opening up in a really beautiful way based on, their work in this area, and that they feel that they have something special. And I can see them, getting, without sharing too much of their story, I think college and the next step will, their poetry and their scholarship ability is really opening up for them. And so that's exciting to see that, like, a skill like that is helping them achieve their next step in life. Also, I used to facilitate workshops myself, in parts of these areas too, as a music person. And I just, in an after school program in particular, students, or I guess they're not students, people that would attend these classes are just coming from after school for a safe place. We would go into the music studio. They may not have any background in music, but just actually playing an instrument for the first time lit up something in them that was so powerful to me. I mean, you really see them think to themselves, wow, maybe I'm good at something. And it's so simple. It wasn't like, oh, this person is a virtuoso, they're going to do great things. I mean, that's nice. But this was just the pure connection with trying something for the first time. And to me, musical instruments are really powerful and I appreciate them. So seeing that light up and seeing them be able, in a way that it seems like they may not have felt like they were good at anything before, or they may not feel that confidence before. And just in that 1 hour, trying something new, I really saw that. And that's really powerful too. And then the last thing I'll share, our Come As You Are concert this year, which was the operas for children. This isn't one specific child, but just to see a room filled with children enjoying opera and connecting to opera. And these stories weren't old stories. They were new stories. We had one story about, a character wanting to change their name and what is a name and what do names look like? And, or one character that it's her birthday and all she wants to do is sing. And so she's 8 years old. And then another one about ponies, and the ponies have to get along because there's some vegetable ponies and some fruit ponies, and they're different, but they have to get along. And just like seeing these kids engage and clap and be, just kind of wrapped up in it was just really powerful. And so I think, opera isn't something that maybe you would think to bring your kids to. And I think we did a good job of showing just how much kids can really appreciate and how much they can get out of it in some of these more traditional forms if you do it in the right way. So those are a few of my favorite stories.
Those are great. And it's No Divide KC. Check them out. They're doing great things in Kansas City. Stacy, thank you for sharing your time with us to teach us all things No Divide KC.
I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you for joining us for KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by a nonprofit called Charitable Communications. This KC Cares segment was brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. And spread the love. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at KC Cares Radio and on Instagram at KC Cares Online. Don't forget, catch us on Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. at ESPN 1510 and 94.5 FM. Thanks for joining us on KC Cares.